Diddy's last hope to escape is slipping away. President Trump has made it clear there will be no pardon for Diddy. To make matters worse, his desperate $50 million bail request has been rejected. With sentencing only a month away, the reality is sinking in. Diddy may be facing the rest of his life behind bars. But what exactly did Diddy say to Trump that sealed his fate? And is there any possible move left that could save him from spending his life in prison?
Trump now clarifies his comments during an interview with Newsmax on August 1st.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Right.
Would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something, but he was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great. And seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
And it's hard, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So I don't know, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs?
I would say so.
Okay.
CNN revealed weeks ago that Diddy's legal team had been in quiet negotiations with the Trump administration for a possible presidential pardon. Although Diddy's lawyers had publicly denied it from the start, the White House later confirmed the discussions were real, forcing them to come clean. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, admitted that his client personally instructed him to reach out to Trump with a direct message. I need a pardon.
Senior White House official declined to comment on, quote, speculation and told us any decision on pardons would come from the president himself. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said he has not talked to the Trump administration about it. You mean to tell me that you really have nothing to do with a possible pardon right now?
Nothing. I have nothing to do with a possible pardon.
What is Sean Combs saying about the possibility of the pardon?
I think he knows I'm not political. We've never discussed it other than I tell him what's in the news about it.
And what's his reaction? Does he laugh? Does he say, let's look into it? What does he say?
Go tell him that I need a pardon. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. That's what he said.
How are you preparing him?
So, I tell him what the guidelines are, and the guidelines are about 2 or 3 years. And I tell him, the judge could go above the guidelines.
Do you have any regrets in how you tried this case?
It's a good question. Not really. Not really.
You called the relationship between Combs and Ventura a great modern love story. Ventura says she was raped, physically abused, and became addicted to drugs because of Combs.
I think that's what makes it. We vehemently deny. And I know I respect that she said that. I don't think the jury concluded that happened. In terms of the drugs and the other stuff, I think that's what makes it a modern love story. I think she very much loved him, and I know he very much loved her.
Cassie Ventura's attorney told us that Agnifilo's description of the relationship is a, quote, complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence.
In one press interview, Trump even admitted that he and Diddy had once been friends and promised he would look into the possibility of a pardon. But in a more recent statement, Trump walked back that tone, saying Diddy was basically, I guess, sort of half innocent. He added that while Diddy may have seen it as a small win, it wasn't much of a victory.
Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know, he didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know, I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Now, the final thing I want to say is this. I asked Joe Tacopina, what about Trump's comment? What does it do to the jury? And he thought it was a nightmare for Diddy that Donald Trump said this. And the reason he thinks that is when the jury goes into deliberations, they could end up saying, well, look, I mean, even if we convict him, because we kind of think he's guilty, we're not sure he's guilty, but if we find him guilty, he's probably going to get pardoned because Trump kind of sent that message.
4 years, those close to Diddy have whispered about the possibility of a presidential pardon. Suge Knight even claimed that Diddy had been working as an informant for the feds, expecting they would protect him from ever facing a real sentence. According to these claims, Diddy was feeding information to federal agents while openly flaunting his own crimes. Law enforcement knew exactly what Puffy was involved in, but despite it all, he was never indicted. And that, many believe, is why Diddy acted untouchable.
Suge, do you think he's going to be all right because someone's going to tamper with the jury? Is that what you're trying to say?
He got enough influence, and I'm quite sure, don't seem like the prosecution is that bad against him. Don't seem like I think he got some favors with the government. I think they're going to show him a little leeway. It might not seem like it when it's all said and done, but I don't think he has nothing to worry about. I don't think he's worried because he's going to be federal. And if he get convicted, Trump's going to pardon him. So what's the worry?
You think the President of the United States would pardon Sean Combs for trafficking?
Shit, he pardoned Michael Harris, who eventually killed a Jewish teenager, or had him. So they don't care about that. It's all about, what's in it for the long run and what the bucks say and what the power of the people want.
How does it go on for so long? When we were on the street, we didn't get a day's rest. I mean, the government was all over us. The FBI is all over us. They got investigations on us. They got informants. They got surveillance equipment.
But he was not cutting you off, but he was an informant for years.
Was he really?
Yeah. That's why when people was like, oh, he's going to run, he's not. It's the reason why these type of people get caught up. They always been telling they're bigger than the law because they part of the law, And as you know, all these people get tired of their rats sooner or later.
Have got too serious of a point. Seeing what's going on, white men like Trump need to be banished. That way of thinking is real dangerous. This man literally threatened the lives of us and our families about going to vote.
Stand back and stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Yeah.
We're in a war. We're not taking this like it's a war. We taking this like, we're in a presidential election. No, we're in a war of love versus hate. The number one priority is to get Trump out of office. The tribe of people that have the responsibility and really should be scared to death of this man is white people.
Explain.
If this man is elected, we're not standing by no more getting killed. We're not scared of anybody standing up and standing by. We're on the verge of a race war.
Lately, nothing has been going Diddy's way. Trump may be willing to forgive, but he doesn't forget. During Trump's run for office, Diddy launched a public campaign against him, even creating his own political party to oppose him. In a recent interview, Trump admitted that Diddy's past attacks are making it extremely difficult for him to consider granting a pardon.
White men like Trump need to be banished. Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. That's why this message is not just to black people, you know what I'm saying? This message is to everybody. This man is really trying to turn us against each other and put us in a situation. America messed up.
President Trump even called him a good friend on a 2012 episode of his TV show The Apprentice. Problem is, some comments Diddy made about Trump in recent years as Diddy really entered the political realm. There's a video where he's speaking to radio host Charlemagne saying, if Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. In another video on Revolt, he says white men like Trump need to be banished. And by the way, you know who's not letting anyone forget this? Combs' rival 50 Cent. Took to social media recently, wrote, see, Trump don't like S like this, buddy, you run your mouth too much. And Donald doesn't take well to disrespect and doesn't forget who chooses to go against him. While working tirelessly to make America great again, there is no room for distraction. He would consider pardoning anyone who is being mistreated, not Puff Daddy. And let me tell you, the idea of Trump pardoning Diddy is not getting a ton of love out there.
Perhaps the biggest reason Trump shifted his stance on Diddy is 50 Cent. From the moment rumors of a possible pardon surfaced, 50 began posting clips of Diddy's old anti-Trump campaign, making sure Trump didn't forget. He even tweeted directly at Diddy, saying, see, Trump don't like stuff like this, buddy. You run your mouth too much.
How do you feel about the people that feel like Trump, he might pardon Diddy?
First of all, he got to be charged and be in prison to be pardoned. You got to realize that the feds could take this case for 2, 3, maybe 4 years, and Trump will be out of office. You don't know how long the feds is gonna go on with this. You understand what I'm saying? You hear people talking crazy talk, well, they ain't got nothing because, man, I've seen the dude set behind bars for 2 years before he had his trial with the feds. And by the time a pardon come in, another year would come by. So that's just a whole lot of propaganda. Puff wasn't even fucking with Trump like that no more. He was going against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is petty as 50 Cent. Do you understand that? You see how petty 50 is? Donald Trump is just as petty as 50, bro. And he gonna look at it and say, yo, why should I help this motherfucker when he talking shit about me? The diddler. I seen them in a meeting together before. Al Sharpton, Wendy Williams, Puff Daddy, and Donald Trump at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown. And I'm sure he was telling them because all this shit is planned, bro. Yo, you know I'm gonna be president one day. I'm gonna need y'all support. But they flipped. You understand what I'm saying? They flipped. Because everybody was dealing with Donald Trump at one time. That was in the music record business and all that stuff like that. So my whole thing about it is, all that shit is propaganda, bullshit. It's just having somebody, they need something to talk about. Donald Trump probably wouldn't put on Puff if he was on fire.
Gene Deal saw this coming a year ago. He warned that Trump was never going to pardon Diddy. Their friendship was long over, and the political cost would be far too high. Pardoning someone with Diddy's reputation would bring massive backlash, and Trump knew it. According to those close to the former president, Trump also felt deeply disrespected by Diddy and made it clear he wasn't about to risk his own image for a man who had publicly tried to humiliate him.
You heard how Trump, he spoke on giving Puffy a pardon? You heard what he said about it?
He still would have, if he pardoned Diddy, as far as I know, he would still have to go through the process. I don't think Trump is just going to send the marshals or the Department of Justice, chief them over there to the fucking jail, yo, get Diddy out. And when he had friends that went to jail. Remember, he had friends that went to jail who worked for him, who did some shit. What did he do? They went through the same process that every person go through and giving a pardon. And that might take a year, that may take 2 years. But he's gonna have to go through the process first because I don't think Trump is gonna show him any special favors for him not going through the process. So if Trump said that he may pardon him, he might still have to do a year, 9 months, or even longer than that. And I don't believe he is. I think 50 gonna be right there in his ear. And I think 50 is closer than Trump than Diddy is.
Even if Trump were to grant Diddy a pardon, he'd still be forced to spend at least a year or more behind bars. Remember, Diddy hasn't even been sentenced yet, and a pardon can only be issued once he's already in prison. That process alone could drag on for over a year. And during that time, Diddy faces serious risks. His reputation in the streets has earned him plenty of enemies, and prison is the one place where many of them would finally get their chance at revenge.
In early July, Combs was convicted on 2 prostitution-related charges, each carrying a maximum sentence of 10 years. He was found not guilty on the more serious racketeering charges.
Today's a great victory.
After the July verdict, prosecutors initially expected Combs would face a prison term of 4 to 5 years, according to CBS News. However, according to a written submission filed Thursday in a Manhattan federal court, as reported by the Associated Press, the expected sentence is now substantially higher. The submission also opposed Combs' request to be released on a $50 million bail ahead of his October 3rd sentencing. The filing also says Combs must remain in custody until sentencing unless he can prove exceptional circumstances, and according to prosecutors, he cannot. This comes after a previous bail request for $1 million was also denied following the verdict. A federal judge ruled there was no evidence to suggest Combs doesn't pose a danger to others or the community. With these latest developments, Combs will remain in jail until his sentencing on October 3rd.
Diddy trial prosecutors put in an opposition to Diddy's bail request, and the prosecutors say they're actually looking for a more lengthy sentencing than what they originally thought. In this opposition, the prosecution is laying out the fact that the judge already denied Diddy's bail for being a violent person, and they hone in even more into Diddy's alleged violence against people. Prosecutors are saying that Diddy has actually been lying when he said that he didn't commit violence between his breakup with Cassie Ventura in 2018 up until 2024 with his incident with Jane. Let's go ahead and jump right into this motion. The government says despite the court's clear ruling that the defendant must be detained pending sentencing following his conviction on 2 felony counts, the defendant moves again for bail. The defendant's detention pending sentencing is mandatory. There is no exceptional circumstances justifying his release. Even if there were, the defendant cannot demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that he is not a danger to the community. This court properly denied the defendant's request for bail on July 2nd of 2025, and the defendant has failed to present any reason for the court to reconsider its ruling. The court should deny the defendant's motion on this again on that basis alone, but then they get into listing more reasons. The defendant has failed to meet the strict standard for reconsideration. As an initial matter, the defendant's motion is untimely under Rule 49 because the motion was filed 27 days after the court's July 2nd, 2025 bail determination. The defendant fails to meet Rule 49, which is a 14-day deadline. Go on to say that Diddy has failed to show any exceptional reasons why he should be released on bail waiting sentencing.
To make things even worse, prosecutors are now pushing for a much harsher sentence. Reports suggest the judge may disregard federal guidelines altogether and hand Diddy a punishment far longer than he ever anticipated. Since the guidelines don't cap the length of his sentence, it ultimately comes down to what the judge believes is appropriate for the circumstances.
Diddy's legal problem. So Diddy's legal team has just filed a motion for bail. They're offering $50 million. They're, basically arguing that it's unfair that he's behind bars, given the nature of his conviction. His attorneys are asking the judge to approve the $50 million bond package, and they want him to live on house arrest in his Miami mansion while he waits, for his convictions. Now, the judge, has ordered Diddy to remain in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center until October 3rd, when his sentencing is set. So, and remember, the judge also, cited during the case that Diddy's admitted violence towards his former lovers, including Cassie. He said, quote, "It's impossible for the defendant to show he possesses no danger to any person." So he said that. So that's the reason he felt that he needed to stay behind bars. So I'm wondering, you know what I mean? If this, this will still apply.
To the Sean Diddy Combs case, we may learn this week if he will be released on bond while he awaits sentencing. His lawyers filed a request asking the judge to release Combs on $50 million bond. Combs was convicted earlier this month on charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, and he was acquitted of more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. The government is expected to respond by this Thursday. Combs' sentencing is scheduled for October.
Diddy's legal team has just filed their 5th attempt at securing bail, this time putting $50 million on the table. The proposal includes a massive bond backed by his Miami mansion, surrendering his passport, restricted travel, no phone or internet access, and strict home detention under private security. But behind all these conditions lies one truth: Diddy is terrified of what awaits him in prison. And many believe that if he's ever granted bail, he won't hesitate to make a run for it.
Let's see what's going to happen with this Diddy trial. Federal prosecutors are now responding to Diddy trying to get out, right, while he's waiting to get sentenced. And so basically what prosecutors are saying is that they believe that his response, that his crimes reflect aggravating, not mitigating factors, and they want to justify his continued incarceration. Diddy had said that he's just a John. He's not the one that participated in having sex with these male escorts. He only watched. Right. And his ex-girlfriends are the ones that had sex. Well, they said that ignores the fact that he transported individuals for the purpose of prostitution on hundreds of occasions over the course of decades. And they also said he did ply Cassie and Jane Doe with drugs to make sure they would participate in marathon freak-off sessions while victimizing them through his violent outbursts. So they said he should not be released on a $50 million bond because he does pose a danger and he has a history of violent behavior.
Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his trafficking case, and here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Aaron Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the 3 most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnifilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Keisha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers.
In a surprising shift, Diddy's lawyers are now pushing for the entire case to be thrown out. Their argument: since Diddy never personally took part in the so-called freak-offs and only observed from the sidelines, he can't be held responsible. But the reality is, Diddy was the one organizing everything, pulling the strings and directing how it all went down. And if that doesn't make him guilty, then what does?
Sure. So the Mann Act was passed in 1910, and it's changed a few times through the years. But really what it's geared at, what it's focused on, is prosecuting people who make money from the business of prostitution. And that's not the allegation against Mr. Combs. The allegation of Mr. Combs, what the jury found, essentially was that he was a user of services provided by workers, essentially a John, for lack of a better word. And the Mann Act just historically hasn't been applied to Johns. It's a financial statute. It's really been applied at people who look to make money from prostitution. And so since that's not how it's being applied here, we made the argument that we have to, under the case law and the statutes in this area, that this is an exceptional reason and that Mr. Combs should be considered for release on bail because of it.
Well, Diddy is upping his offer to the government. He wants out of jail right now. You know that he is still behind bars at Brooklyn MDC while he is awaiting his sentence in October. But right after he was sentenced, they tried to get out on bail. They made an offer. They said, we'd like for him to be released on $1 million bail. The judge shut that down. So now it's like he's playing Let's Make a Deal, right? How about this, Your Honor? What if we offer a $50 million bail package? The money has gone up, but the reason that he thinks he should get out is because he says what he's convicted of were nonviolent offenses. And he's right. He's right that he was convicted on 2 counts of the Mann Act. The Mann Act is hiring a prostitute and taking the prostitute across state lines. It's a nonviolent crime.
Adding to Diddy's troubles, a new lawsuit has just been filed, this time naming both him and his son, Justin Combs. They're accused of involvement in a violent assault dating back to 2017. According to the woman behind the suit, she was lured to Los Angeles with the promise of a job, only to be held captive for an entire weekend and repeatedly assaulted.
The self-proclaimed bad boy for life, Sean Combs, is facing a series of new allegations of sexual abuse and sexual assault tonight. At least 6 people filed civil lawsuits against him in federal court in New York today. I think the biggest headline from here is that one of these alleged victims was a minor. That's serious.
Very serious, and I agree with you, Elizabeth. Obviously, it changes the game. This is just a civil lawsuit, but if that works its way into the federal criminal indictment, if there is indeed a superseding indictment, that changes the game in 2 ways. One, of course, there's a mandatory minimum and very serious sentences for traffic minors, but importantly, it really gets around one of Combs's defense, that is that the sexual contact happened, but it was consensual between adults because, of course, minors cannot consent.
With Trump refusing a pardon and the court shutting down his $50 million bail request, Diddy's future has never looked darker. The man who once seemed untouchable may finally be out of power, out of money, and out of favors to protect him. But what do you think? Does Diddy deserve a second chance, or should he spend the rest of his life behind bars? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss the latest updates on this story.